to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would, please remain standing. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Suzanne Dungan, who was a member of the school board, and her husband died Thursday. And I'd just like a moment just to remember for Suzanne's sake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kramer, would you call the roll, please?
I will. Mr. Basil? Mrs. Bites?
Here.
Mr. Doty?
Here.
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mr. Rathgeb?
Here.
Mr. Speed?
Here.
Ms. Twardowski?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Mr. Martino?
Here. Under announcements, there were a few. The first one, I'd like everyone to join me in wishing Mr. Kurtz a very happy 21st birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Kurtz.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The board just attended an information session to discuss some legal issues. And there will be a special voting meeting following the committee of the whole session, followed thereafter by an executive session to discuss some personnel issues. Are there any agenda edits? Seeing none, we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Martino. Today was the fourth day of school. The children arrived last Wednesday. Very excited as usual. Lots of new sneakers and new clothing as I was greeting them coming off the buses. Very excited to get into the buildings, which were ready for them. Everything has been running smoothly outside of a little bit of transportation glitches yet with getting everybody on the buses in a speedy way as fast as we possibly can, and for the buses to be able to move from place to place. So, parents have to bear with us for the next few days because it is just the opening of school, and it does take a little bit of time for the students to get accustomed to the new routine. But other than that, the opening of school has been very good, uneventful. Our sports teams are all playing. Our football team won their first home opener against ONJ Roberts. I believe 27. What was the score? I'm not sure, but
33.
Okay, but we did win. So, and as well as our other sports teams, they are also progressing. I'd like to take a minute tonight because I did receive something that was very endearing from a woman that happened to find us. She's from Glasgow, Kentucky. She was on a vacation in Myrtle Beach, and she was separated from her husband only to hear one of her friends yelling for her, that her husband was choking. And one of our students from Daniel Boone School District High School happened to be nearby. The man was a pretty large man. Someone else tried to do the Heimlich, could not help him. But our student, Trevor Biggerstaff, was able to help her husband get the item up and out, and just amazing thing for a young man to do, to just jump in. They were at a flea market, and I believe the man choked on a peanut. I wanted to share what the woman had sent us, and her name is Linda Burchett. She said she's worked in the Glasgow Independent School System for 18 years, and that they had a program that was called the Hero of the Month. It was a child, I worked in kindergarten, who had displayed unusual kindness, helpfulness, or did something special for another child. If you have any such program where you honor a student, I would like you to consider Trevor for this honor. He is and always will be my hero. I thank God today and every day that He placed Trevor and Tyler in that spot so that they could save my husband's life. We have 2 sons and 3 grandchildren that are also very happy to have their dad and pa still with us. I don't know yet what I can do for Trevor and Tyler to say thank you, but I am starting with this. Please consider this, and she wanted me to contact her. And I'm sorry, the other gentleman was Tyler Trapanese. Am I saying that name right? who is also a student that happened to be at that same flea market in Myrtle Beach. So I will be bringing these two boys forward and making sure that we do some type of an award or to recognize what they did. So, and to share with them that we've been contacted. So I'm sorry that I took a few more minutes, but I felt like that was worth reporting. So thank you.
If I may, just let me add to the opening of school that we now have a before and after school YMCA program at the Monocacy Center, and there are still slots available.
That would be for our kindergarten, our half-day kindergarten program, yes. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Any comments from the board? Is there any public comment? I skipped right over that with the announcements earlier. Is there any public comment about the announcements or the superintendent's report? Seeing none, we'll move on to curriculum and instruction. Mr. Kurtz.
The Curriculum and Instruction Committee will not be meeting this month after consultation with Mrs. Portia. We will be meeting next month, however, right before the Committee of the Whole meeting at 6 o'clock.
Yes. And that meeting, there will be a presentation on the data that we have collected over the past year showing how our students are performing.
Great.
So.
What was the date again, please?
9/22 at 6 o'clock.
No, the 13th. I believe our curriculum committee meeting will be the 13th of October. Yes.
It's right before the Committee of the Whole meeting.
Oh, okay, right, sorry.
Yes.
And for everyone's knowledge, the microphone system that was ordered for here will be here for the next meeting, so you won't have to strain to hear, or we won't have to shout. Is there any public comment on curriculum and instruction? Seeing none, Ms. Twardowski, the Building and Grounds report.
Thank you. The Facilities Committee met prior to this meeting at 5:30, and again we discussed the facilities use and the organizations that use the building and how they've been being charged in the past. And we are going to talk about this again, but we asked the business office to try to determine the costs associated with opening buildings for custodian and utilities and that kind of thing. And then also we asked administration to try to group the organizations that use the facilities into the level 1, 2, and 3 uses as per the policy. And at the future meeting we will kind of make a recommendation as to how we feel the groups should be charged or where they fit in, and also maybe if there's could be a season fee if some of the organizations use the gym or the fields for a season as opposed to a per use fee, and we'd make a recommendation to the whole board. And we also talked about when we get to the point where we are there, bring all the community organizations or inviting all the organizations to a meeting, facilities meeting, to discuss what may be happening for next year so that they have some input and that they're not blindsided if we do begin to charge next year. We agree that the schools should be used for community organizations if possible, but if our own children are paying heavy activity fees to participate in sports at high school level, then other organizations should also be contributing to that as well. So we'll think more about that in the next few months.
Thank you, Ms. Twardowski. Is there a reserve study update?
There is nothing to report at this time. We are anticipating a draft copy of the report next week. So I should have something to present to the board the 22nd.
Okay, thank you. And the Facilities Committee meeting date in October is?
The 13th of October, and
that's right there.
At 6
at 5, did we say 6 or 5:45? 5:45. And we will, the location has yet to be determined, so I will let everyone know where we'll be.
We're going to split the two meetings that night. There'll be a curriculum and instruction meeting in one room and a facilities meeting in another room prior to the Committee of the Whole. Any public comment on building and grounds or facilities report? Seeing none, finance. Course approvals, is there any comment on course approvals? The Finance Committee meeting, Mr. Basil did have a Finance Committee meeting last week. I'll give a brief report even though I don't have all his information. Basically, the meeting was to go over last year's budget to see line item by line item where we were over and where we were under, and the biggest underrun that contributed to us having extra money for this year was like $500,000 or better in supplies. Is that correct, Mr. Small? About $504,000, I think. So there's $500,000 that was over budgeted for supplies that was taken out for this year, and there was some discussion about the budget for the 2015-16 year, which the administration has assured us will be different than budget development from past years. The next item on the list, Mr. Basil did set a Finance Committee meeting date for October. Do you remember when that was, Mr. Small?
September. There's one coming up the 25th of September, I believe.
Again this month?
I thought it was it the last Thursday?
Scott, website, finance meeting.
Yeah, there's a Finance Committee meeting at 6:30 on September 25th. Thank you. Proposal for installation of replacement glass units at the high school. Wasn't that already?
We're doing it in waves. They were, the glass was covered. That it was faulty glass that was installed to begin with. But unfortunately, the installation was not a coverage as a result. So we have to pay for the installation. The glass is there. There was, I'm not exactly sure what Kenny said it was. It was,
It's in the gasketing.
Yes,
the way it was
gaskets.
installed, and potential exists down the road that there could be additional. Glass will always be under warranty, and materials, the labor is not.
Yeah, but my understanding is from a Facilities Committee meeting from last year that I attended as a member of the public, he explained that the glass was covered. We were responsible for installation, but I thought that money had already been budgeted out of funds that he had. Check on that, please. I think he said he had the funds covered.
Was it encumbered? It
Kenny.
wouldn't have been encumbered, but unless he had something remaining in the capital reserve fund, then I'll check.
Yeah, I'd ask him because I'm pretty sure he said there was money for this.
Or he may have been planning to use some of his monies that are accumulating in capital reserve from energy savings.
Can it be, if possible, can the glass be installed before it gets cold outside? Yeah, when they were coming in, I know there were some students.
He wanted to make sure that it would be installed when there were no students in the building because of that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Any comments on the per capita tax exonerations? Any public comment on finance? Seeing none, we'll move on to personnel. All the personnel items that we need to discuss tonight will be done in the special voting meeting immediately following this meeting. So we'll withhold public comment until then. Under programs, Mrs. Torsher, the third day enrollment.
Our third day enrollment, we have a total of 3,549 students enrolled. At the Amity Elementary Center, we have 697 students, Birdsboro 386, Monocacy 421, middle school 877, and at the high school 1,168, with a projected graduating class of 286 as of today.
Comments or questions? Student data?
That should be at your seats as well, that attachment. Review it. Let me know if there's any questions that you have. We have included River Rock's attendance there, as well as our Berks Online Learning, which has always been as a part of that. But let me know if you have any questions with regard to the student data report.
One quick question. I
know there was, the past board had talked about this, I think quite a bit, so maybe Connor might have, actually Andrew probably has some as well, but when we introduced the Berks Online as the substitute to try to bring some of the cyber kids back in-house. How have we been pursuing that?
Every student that says that they're withdrawing to go to cyber education then gets contacted by Mr. Hurley, Rob Hurley, who has been put in charge of that in person. Prior to that was Andrea Eckenrode. So we try to get them to look at the program that we have to offer, let them know the benefits of Berks Online Learning, that you're still a Daniel Boone student, that we can put together a package, that if you would like to be in our school in the brick and mortar building of Daniel Boone for part of the day to go to VOTEC, that would be an option with our online learning. So at the beginning of the year, the numbers are always low. At the end of the year, it begins to creep up as students start to make that transition. But we do try to get the parents to...
Mr. Kirsten, now he being on the DCIU, so that's who provides that.
Yes.
And as I understand it, they have the same access to all the...
They do.
Same online learning so that we can customize that
yes.
to the student.
And some parents, a diploma,
instead of a,
and the fact that we can really create a schedule that, you know, if they're don't want to come into school, but they really want to participate in, you know, a class that they really have liking of a teacher, we are happy to accommodate that so that we can keep them here in hopes that the more we get them into school, the more that we can keep them back in the physical building.
I wonder if we need to get ahead of the curve before they decide.
They're aware. Sometimes it's just the dissatisfaction that they want to get away from us, and there's not anything that we can do to change their mind. We do pay attention to attendance, and we don't let them get away with missing or not signing in. So we hold them accountable, and we're holding them accountable a little bit faster than what the other schools do. And so that sometimes is a deterrent if that word gets out. But, you know, that's part of our responsibility in making sure that they're attending.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What about those who are already enrolled in cyber school? Are you approaching them, telling them about our offering and how
we
to
have
get more benefit?
Yes, we have reached out to them, and I will. Mr. Hurley will continue to reach out to them. He is also checking their attendance so that we're looking and saying, you know what, you need to get on to that student because, you know, they're not attending. So yeah, we do try. We make every attempt.
I have one question. I somewhere the number for River Rock struck me as 36.
It was. They were going up, but then we had some students that we pulled back that didn't need to be there. So the numbers had there, and then not all 6 of them, but there were a few students that were ours that had changed, and then some of the numbers that they were projecting to be 36, it didn't come through.
So it is 30.
It is 30 as of today. Yes.
How did we know that they weren't supposed to be there?
Well, we don't. We're not overseeing that part of it. Oh, you mean our students? Our students. I believe it was through parent meeting, and I can talk to Shelley about it and go back to all of you or report back on it if you want to bring it up.
I mean, for the other alternative placements as well.
I believe they came back into our building, so they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the students who are going to other placements,
those are
not just River Rock.
Right, but those are different. Those are typically tied to an IEP.
Okay.
Yes.
Other comments or questions?
Mrs. Spencer, we're just seeing the 30, I'm only seeing 14 on this for River Rock.
On the right-hand side of the report?
Up in the top right corner, the last edition says River Rock.
So this is the ones being transported.
Correct.
Right, now this is the total. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any public comment on enrollment or student data? Seeing none, we'll move on to policy. Mr. Kurtz.
We have a few new policies we're moving forward, or not new, one new policy, the other 2 are updated policies. Minor changes on the 2, your organization and public participation. The organization changes pretty much make all they do is make the board president ex officio member of all committees, in addition to the superintendent. That was the understanding, at least of previous board presidents, they were considered ex officio members, but that was never formally in policy. We also included a line to clarify that just because they're an ex officio member doesn't mean that you possess voting privileges. The other updated policy was the public participation policy. The only change to that policy was that we changed the policy to mimic how we were here. The old policy said that you had to stand up from your seat and state your name and your issues for the board. The new change says you have to come to the podium and state your name and address and then your issues. It's just making sure that we're following what we do. Then the new policy is proposed policy 808.1, video and audio monitoring on school buses. That is attached, and that policy will allow our busing contractors to record audio
Correct,
on school buses.
because they are currently videotaping and have been.
Yes, and only videotape.
Right.
But now they'll be able to do audio as well. Parents will be notified of that change through a letter that will be sent home.
Right.
And that's just, I believe, some recent legislation allowed us to move forward with that.
Yes.
If anybody else in the committee has anything to add, they're more than welcome to.
Yeah. Thanks.
And our next meeting is going to be at the end of the month.
22nd.
On that note, though, I do have a request. Would it be possible if committees would be willing, we get the agendas posted on the Daily News website so people can see out in the public what we'll be talking about? Is there any objection to that? I mean, it's up to, I guess, the committee and the
Right.
chairman of each
As
committee.
as soon as we get them, we'll be happy to post them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Then we'll do that at the next policy committee.
Well, let me just talk to the committee chairs. That means you'd have to have an agenda available, right?
It doesn't have to be. I mean, if
Well, there was an issue at the last meeting about a meeting that was held and the public wasn't aware of what the topics
Right.
were.
and I remember it came up in
Just
the past.
topics. Just posted a few topics.
Yeah.
Discussion, just to prepare other committee members too. It's like,
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be the formal agenda. It could just be the topics that will be
Sure.
discussed.
You
They
get
may
them.
not be limited.
Any committee chair gets them to us, we'll make sure that they're posted.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yep.
I'd like to comment on the new policy, the audio video policy. We did have some discussion of it in the committee, and it did pass 2-1. I'm in opposition of it, and I mean, it's well worded. I just don't think, I think it's time for us to have a discussion on these type of things, because we're talking, I am a Fourth Amendment fan. You know, I do believe in privacy for the kids. I like the amendment. And at some point in time, everybody's going to have to deal with what their limits are on how much mining of child data is too much. I don't know if you realize right now we're already collecting over 400 data points in the PIM system on our kids that we ship to the state. We collect their disciplinarian records, we collect their employment record information. It's all going home, and it's all available now to our education partners. Our education partners that have been defined to be our book publishers who want to do business with us. Supposedly the data is de-identified, but when you cross-access these records with other departments, the data actually does end up being somewhat identifiable, although the Department of Education will argue that. With that said, and I know I'm not going to convince any of you about the video, the audio video, but I just want to come in to express my background and why I feel the way I do about it. This is a limit for me. I don't know what your limit will be when they bring us the RFIDs, you know, the radio frequency IDs, that they want to track all the kids all the entire time, like they're doing in Florida. GPS, and they always know where they are. And you can always sell a greater good. It's really good to keep our kids safe, and I don't want to diminish that in any way, but at some point you're all going to have to deal with the fact that, you know, is it really a good trade-off for our kids. My background, the past 10 years, the better part of 10 years, I was a technology coordinator for a K-8 private school, and it was the burgeoning period of computers and technology, and I dedicated my entire life to trying to keep kids safe surfing the internet. I taught the administrators and the teachers how to keep kids safe about blurring out their faces, and I was vigilant about de-identifying the kids when their presence was on the internet. I taught the kids how the FBI could pick up traces about little pieces of themselves they leave all around the network, the internet, and they thought they were talking to kids their age, they were talking to adults, and how the FBI guy showed up at their house and tried to make a message to these kids that you're not really safe. there's a right and a wrong way to save if you're leaving, serve if you're leaving too much information about yourself around. So that's my background. So it makes me very uneasy when we say we're videoing kids randomly and routinely, and now we want to add audio. And by our busing partners' own statements, they said now it's going to add value to that product that we're producing. And they said we're written every 72 hours or 48 hours. We had some discussion about that. However, when there's a request made for that, and I suspect there'll be more requests made for it now because by their own admission, it's more valuable. That's rendered on a computer, and it's not even our house. It's not that computer's not housed in our. It's like because we contract out our busing services. So it opens up all kinds of concerns for me, as I say, as a privacy advocate and trying to keep kids safe. You know, stills can always be made from videos, and they can end up in the wrong hands. You might think you're videoing benign kids, you know, or a fight, but there's kids, the casualties that might be doing something that they're not, that might be embarrassing for them, and I don't think it's fair to them. It could potentially become part of the record, their official educational record, if there's a parent requests it, and then it stays with that kid, that child, and it's also available to our education partners, I imagine. And there are some FERPA compliance issues that will be worked out with this. FERPA is the federal regulation for Family Education Rights Privacy Act. This new initiative is a state initiative signed by Corbett in February. I would like you guys to at least start thinking about it and maybe not rush into this until we see what the ramifications are. I haven't heard any compelling reasons for us to do this. We don't have necessarily bad kids. Personally, running cameras on them all the time kind of, to me, diminishes their innocence, the assumption of innocence. And I know what you're going to say. One time that we catch somebody doing something, you're going to say it's really worth it. I think a better policy would be something like do pause and put cameras on all the buses and put on microphones. But turn it on when we have a reason to. Have a process where a principal has to go through a process and get permission all the way up to the superintendent. Turn it on. If we're going to be turning on cameras, how about we put some on those arms? My kid almost got hit twice last year when that bus arm swung out and the car still approached her. And there was no way to what we call the busing company, we didn't have any way to capture that. We were worried about capturing the data inside the bus. Again, it's a subjective. And I see the dangers being more on the outside of the bus. So that's all I just want to say. Please consider the storage of the data. The fact that it's going to be of more interest now to more people. There's going to be a requesting process. I talked to some local law enforcement authorities, and they said, you know, yeah, they could subpoena to get it. Families could request it, and there could be FERPA complications that we could be drug into. I can't honestly say that there will be, but there is some question about whether kids' privacy will be invaded with the data now that's being captured, recorded, and rendered and put on people's computers. Please think about it before we jump into this.
Thank you, Mrs. Weitz. Comments, questions?
Yeah, do we have any policy or any idea of how this is going to be stored? Who's going to store it? For what length of time?
Policy 808.1.
It does have information in the proposed policy about how long they are required, at a minimum, how long they are required to keep that information. From my understanding at the meeting where our busing contractors were there answering questions, how it works, the tapes automatically rewrite. So if they do not take the information off the tape, it's erased. Now when they take that information, they need to convert it through a software program. Once that is converted, they will keep the file on their system.
Which is a code.
And I'm not sure.
I believe it was coded.
It's the coded, they keep the original encrypted file on their computer, and they'll send the unencrypted file to the administration. But that unencrypted file, which they can still convert, remains on their computer. All this policy does, if I'm understanding it correctly, is allows audio to be recorded in addition to video.
Right.
And I'm sympathetic to many of Mrs. Weitz' arguments, but I think it's important not only for the students but the drivers that these cameras are recording. You don't want to have the driver be able to turn on and off the camera. That can be a big issue. And additionally, I think the cameras also, I'm not sure if it's like this on all the buses, but many of the buses, it does record the front as well. I believe that was a statement made by one of the busing contractors. So I do agree that we do have to be vigilant about privacy issues, but I don't think that, I'm just personally speaking, I think this is a good policy and it'll help protect students and drivers if they're unfairly accused of that. But I really do appreciate that is something that we need to be vigilant about.
So there is currently video
Yes.
now?
Yes.
So this is just video?
Yes. And the first day of school, we did have 3 bus seats damaged, which was not captured by video because there's not enough camera on the buses. But the first day of school, the bus companies and if we can't find out who did it to be able to post the blame, I mean, the responsibility is going to come back to the district because those seats were intact. So, unfortunately, things are happening on the bus.
I think it would be possible if we get one of a random bus sample, just so the board members can actually witness what type of fidelity you're going to get from this audio recording and what type of video capture you're going to actually achieve.
I could certainly get you the video. I could not get you the audio until this would be adopted. Unless you guys wanted to ride the bus and then we could video audio tape you.
I've ridden the bus before. I know how bad.
I'm sure there are other bridges out there.
It hasn't been that long.
No, I think what you're trying to determine is what it
Right.
you actually hear, I guess. Yeah.
Because it's the driver. You will hear pretty well the driver in the first several seats, but beyond that, it's going to be not discernible what the conversation actually is unless they're raising it.
Right. I think their biggest concern is the protection of the students. If it's a comment made by the bus driver to the student, that they can go back and say it was an inappropriate comment, or vice versa, if the student's making an inappropriate comment to the bus driver. They were looking at that as part of the example.
Mr. Rose said it really well. It could be your best friend or your worst enemy.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, and unfortunately, and ironically, if we have an incident on a bus, I'm sure there'll be 27 videos on YouTube from everybody's cell phones.
And that is the case when something does happen. Yeah.
But yeah, at some point after this policy is implemented, just so we can actually witness what the recording sound like it looked like.
Well, if the audio is not going to be that great beyond a certain point, if that's what I'm hearing, is it worthwhile to do this?
Well, we don't know that it's not going to be at this point. Almost everyone knows that when I first retired, I drove a school bus, both here and Owen J. Roberts. How elaborate of a system you have depends on how much money you want to spend. Owen J. Roberts, 2 or 3 years ago, decided to put cameras front and back of the bus, so they didn't miss what you're talking about. I don't know what these microphones will pick up. Part of it's for the protection of the driver. In this litigious nation that we live in, drivers are accused of stuff that they may or may not have done. The camera will show that. There was a major accident in Montgomery County 2 years ago or 3 years ago. The bus actually had cameras outside the bus that showed it going through stop signs, showed it speeding beyond. You're talking a very costly system. This isn't that. So it depends on what you're looking for. With all due respect to the teachers, stands in front of a class with 25 kids. Bus drivers driving with 50 kids behind them, trying to look at the road and look at the mirror at the same time. Without the cameras, without the audio, bus driver has almost no control. And on top of that, if you send a report to the school saying the kid misbehaved, and the kid says, no, I didn't, it's he said, she said.
Right.
So these things, I understand the privacy issue. I was not part of the policy committee discussion. I'm not a member of the policy committee. I think there's a very good reason to have them. the quality of the audio, we won't know, we can't know until we approve the policy that lets them put the audio in the bus. So
The question that comes down to this issue is really, do you believe that having the audio will be a step too far when it comes to privacy? I think that's kind of what the discussion is boiling down to, and I guess it has to be answered at an individual level with each board member. I don't think it's a step too far.
Mr. Speed, as it was explained to us, the microphone is at the camera location, which is in front of the bus. So it's in a very good position to pick up instructions of what the driver is saying or giving instructions to the children. And also, maybe get the 4th, 5th, 6th row of seats back, you may be able to hear what's being said back, or if there's yelling or something along those lines, you're going to hear that. But it's really how the bus driver is reacting, the instructions he's giving, and who you can see is following the instructions and who's not.
And they're there already, they just need to be turned on, right?
They're there already, just need to be activated. Yes, that's how it was explained to us.
Because the law now passed
Right.
that they want us to authorize turning it on.
And I believe there'd be a sign in the front of the bus saying that actions are being
It has to be.
Right.
It's part of the
Recorded.
law. Placards, the notifications to parents.
Plus the notification
Yeah.
that Mr. Connor spoke about.
I'm not against that, I'm just suggesting that we do it, just do pause on the bus. I would suggest that we do it, because it's not, widespread. And as you know right now, there are video cameras on the buses. That's why we can't catch the guys and lift up the seats. And truthfully, that example, we didn't need audio to catch it.
But the bus company has a responsibility to assign seats. If seats were damaged, they should know who was sitting in those seats. And if they don't, that should not be our liability.
I agree. The problem is that discovery of it, and whether it was during the elementary run or during the secondary run.
Again, it's the bus driver's responsibility.
They should be checked.
It's the bus driver's responsibility to walk through the bus after the children
Right.
leave, and that's their responsibility to determine if there's damage and which children are possibly...
Right. But and then in some circumstances, the kids are moving out of their seats, and with it being just the first day of school, not knowing exactly, so there's different things that are just not falling into place for the first day of school, unfortunately.
Any public comment on any of the policy topics? Seeing none, is there any other transportation discussion?
None.
None. Under old business, I'll address the facility use procedure. The facilities committee, as Mr. Radowski said, is still working on that. If I heard correctly, when you're close to finalizing it, you will invite the groups that it pertains to a meeting. So they'll have some input into the policy. Is there a district fundraising update?
There's nothing really to report. We're still working out, making sure that we're giving ample opportunity to all groups.
And Mr. Basil wanted this after-school music program on the agenda, but he's not here, and I'm not sure what he wanted to discuss.
Neither did I.
Is there any new business? Public presentation on any issues? Seeing none, before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I want to remind everyone we will go right into a voting meeting right after this. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second. Moved by Mr. Kurtz, second by Mr. Wolf. Meeting adjourned.